I am Moses Phiri, an online master's student in carbon management at the University of Edinburgh, and my matriculation number is 1364721. I live in Chadiza, Zambia. Zambia is a landlocked developing country located in southern Africa with a population of about 14 million people. Zambia is surrounded by 8 countries and it is administratively divided into 10 provinces. Chadiza is located in the eastern province of Zambia and it is situated at 14.0 degrees south latitude and 32.43 degrees east longitude. Chadiza has a population of 107,327 and it covers 926 kilometers squared. The eastern half of Chadiza is characterized by wooded rocky hills. Agriculture is the main driver of the economy in Chadiza. Tobacco, maize and cotton are the main cash crops grown in Chadiza. Therefore, many people in Chadiza earn a living from small-scale agricultural activities and agribusinesses. Most of the buildings in the urban areas of Chadiza are made of bent bricks and a few are made of concrete blocks. Most people in the rural areas of Chadiza live in traditional grass-thatched houses made of mud, but those with disposable income live in houses made of bent bricks and corrugated iron. In terms of climate, an average annual rainfall for Chadiza is 1,089 millimeters. And more than 90% of this rainfall falls in rainy season from November to April. The summers are much rainier than the winters. The greatest amount of precipitation occurs in January with an average of 273 millimeters. Precipitation is lowest in July and August with an average of 1 millimeter. October is the hottest month of the year, while June and July are the coldest months. October has an average temperature of 25.4 degrees Celsius, while June and July have the average temperature of 17.6 degrees Celsius each. Chadiza has the average annual temperature of 21.8 degrees Celsius. The minimum temperature of 10.1 degrees Celsius has been observed in June, and the maximum temperature of 32.8 degrees Celsius has been observed in October. In terms of severe weather events, Chadiza has been affected by many droughts since 1970s because of its geographical location in agroecological zone 1. The most recent partial drought was experienced in the month of January 2018 and it resulted in maize production losses ranging from 30 to 80%. In 2008, severe storm blew off the roofs of houses in Chadiza's Kamara compound. In 2011, the heavy rains washed away a number of culverts along Chadiza-Vubwi Road. In terms of projected climate change in Southern Africa, the IPCC's 5th assessment report has identified Southern Africa as being very susceptible to climate change. 4 greenhouse gas emission scenarios known as representative concentration pathways, RCPs, are used to project future global climate by IPCC. RCP 2.6 greenhouse gas emission scenario represents a stringent mitigation scenario. RCP 4.5 and RCP 6.0 represent 2 intermediate scenarios towards cutting down greenhouse gas emissions. RCP 8.5 represents one scenario with very high greenhouse gas emission and can be considered as business as usual, as it represents a scenario without additional efforts to constrain emissions. Thus, RCP 2.6 represents the only emission scenario that aims at keeping global warming below 2 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial temperatures. The IPCC's 5th assessment report projections indicate that temperatures will continue to rise in Southern Africa by the end of the 21st century under a range of emission scenarios except for RCP 2.6. The IPCC's 5th assessment report has also projected that under RCP 8.5, greenhouse gas emission scenario, the warming of up to 4.8 degrees Celsius was likely to be experienced in southern Africa by 2100. In addition, the report has projected a decrease in rainfall over the southern part of Africa under RCP 8.5 greenhouse gas emission by 2100. Furthermore, IPCC's fifth assessment report has projected that as temperatures rise, climate-related risks such as health-related problems, water scarcity, agricultural unproductivity, forest damage, severe droughts, and severe variability in rainfall will be experienced in southern Africa. According to IPCC's fifth assessment report, until mid-century, projected climate change will impact human health mainly by worsening health problems that already exist. Throughout the 21st century, climate change is expected to lead to increases in ill health in southern Africa. Flooding is expected to contribute to contaminating water sources, leading to more diseases such as cholera, and to leave behind stagnant water, hence increasing the breeding areas for vectors of malaria. Reduced amount of rainfall will pose serious threats to food and energy security across southern Africa, since countries in southern Africa rely on hydropower and rain-fed agriculture. Hence, SADC is vulnerable to changes in rainfall. A number of key sectors are vulnerable to projected climate changes in Chadiza. An increase in droughts will lead to lack of water for agriculture. Floods will lead to damage of crops and destruction of crops, leading to poor yields and loss of income, thus increasing poverty levels and nutrition-related diseases. Those faced with high poverty levels will resort to charcoal production as a source of income, hence exacerbating deforestation and diminishing biodiversity and the future availability of trees for firewood and medicinal purposes. Higher temperatures will promote proliferation of pests such as armyworms, which destroyed various types of crops including maize in 2016 in southern Africa. Reduced rainfall will also result in scarcity of fresh water for domestic and agricultural use. In addition to damaging crops, projected increases in intensity and frequency of floods and heavy rains will lead to damage of road infrastructure and was made of gravel, hence impacting the transport sector. Higher intensity of rainfall will lead to flooding, which will in turn lead to contamination of water sources, resulting in an increase in diseases such as cholera. Flooding will lead to increases in breeding grounds for malaria vectors, hence exacerbating the problems of malaria, and this will entail that the health sector is also vulnerable, and this entails that the health sector is also vulnerable to climate change. In terms of transboundary impact, in 2008 there was disruption in transport between Chadiza and Vubi because Maraya and Chipwete bridges located along the Chadiza-Vubi road were damaged by heavy rains. Chadiza also experienced power cuts in 2016 and 2017 because of the low levels of water at the hydropower stations located in another district where electricity is generated. 75% of the Zambia's energy supply comes from charcoal and firewood. In recognition that reliance on natural resources such as trees for energy, which includes the use of firewood to fire brick kilns and to cure tobacco as well as for cooking, contributes to climate change, the Zambian government recognizes that without adaptation, the impact of climate change could rise to 0.9% of gross domestic product over the next decade, resulting into an additional 300,000 Zambians living below the poverty line, and thus undermining strong growth that Zambia has experienced over the years. Therefore, to safeguard Zambia's hard-won development gains and to promote climate resilience for vulnerable sectors and population, the National Adaptation Program of Action on Climate Change and the National Policy on Climate Change which spells out multi-sectoral approach to climate change have been developed by the Zambian government.